All right. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on Social Impact Power Chat, where we jump right in as Power Chats are meant to be done. So, thank you so much for joining us. And we're just going to start with how you got into this world of social impact.
Yeah, absolutely. When I finished grad school, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And I fortunately came across an amazing opportunity working for an organization called Omidyar Network, which was a philanthropy started by Pierre Omidyar, the founder of eBay. So really early on in my career, I was just kind of put right in the middle of this intersection of tech and impact. And I was really inspired by that organization's model, which was funding both nonprofits and for profit businesses to change the world. And that's really like the through line that I've had in my career, right? Like from philanthropy, I've spent most of my career since then working at for profit businesses, but really finding a way to make social impact part of my role and part of my team's role wherever I went, and really finding ways to make um, the social impact, just as important or really integrated into how a company thinks about its business performance.
I love that. And, the fact that from the very beginning of your time in this work, it's always been multifaceted, right? You're hitting a number of notes. Um, to get this work done, I think is brilliant, and one of the reasons we're so excited to speak to you. So, perfect segue into what you're doing now, which is really a multifaceted weaving of a lot of different pieces of the business. Tell us about your role and your team's work at Poshmark.
Yeah, absolutely. Poshmark, for those who aren't familiar, is an online marketplace. We primarily are a peer-to-peer platform for people to buy and sell secondhand items, mostly fashion, but a lot of other things as well. And so the business model is inherently one that drives sustainability, which is what drew me to the company, right? I love working for a business where, you know, the social impact programs aren't this like separate in a separate building and like completely separate from the core business. It is the core business in the case of Poshmark. I joined the company to lead some of our communications programs. And that's sort of been my lens on social impact, is the storytelling, the communications lens. Um, that's where my most of my experience has been. And that's the team that I lead at Poshmark. And we're really all about telling stories about the power of secondhand retail and secondhand shopping. And beyond that, also telling a lot of stories around economic empowerment. And what we found in today's economy is more and more people are turning towards, whether you want to call it a side hustle or a, flexible business that maybe you can have when you're a mom or you don't have a lot of extra time. We see a lot of people who have become entrepreneurs using platforms like Poshmark. And so there's a really strong message of economic empowerment there too. So when I think about kind of storytelling and social impact, those are really the two places that me and my team focus, talking about stories of the environmental impact of shopping secondhand, and telling stories about the economic impact of supporting people who are making a living by reselling items online.
Amazing. So, as with all of our social impact power chats, I want to take that macro and make it really micro. So if somebody's
Yeah.
listening and says, I want to take a lesson from Kelly and her team and activate it, I'd love for you to just pick out one specific example of a program that you stood up, give us the what, the where, the why, the how, and what your team did to make that successful, or even lessons
Yeah.
learned.
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the things that I'll probably say again before this conversation is over is, you know, as much as you can make, your CSR program or your impact programs focused on the consumer, focused on your end user, on your, sort of your core audience as a business. I think that's kind of the dream. Like that's where you really get those like business and impact goals aligned. And for us, one of the ways we did that is thinking about how we could create a program that would encourage consumers to think about secondhand buying and selling differently, right? Like there's traditionally a bit of a stigma attached with buying something that isn't shiny and new. And so when do people really like go crazy shopping? Like the holidays. So we introduced a national holiday called Secondhand Sunday that is smack dab in the middle of Cyber Monday, Black Friday, all those big shopping days. And it's on the Sunday after Thanksgiving. This past year was our second year celebrating this holiday. And really, the idea is to give consumers really, really easy ways to tap into choosing more sustainably in their gifting purchases every holiday season. And we were really excited to see, really demonstrable business impact from initiating this holiday, where we're really seeing more people, shopping on a platform like Poshmark over the holidays and opting to buy secondhand, keep an item in circulation, not, basically save, the energy, the water, all of the things that you would need to make something new by buying something that's already out there in the market. And so it was about creating a consumer movement, about creating something that is um, really easy for consumers to kind of understand and act on, and then make, potentially a different choice when they were shopping for gifts over the holiday. So we're 2 years in. Our goal is to keep making it bigger and bigger every year.
It's so smart and, so part of the zeitgeist right now. If you think about today's parents, you had mentioned sort of buying presents for your children, 11
Yeah.
months of the year, you're trying to create a more sustainable world for them. And then 1 month a year, you throw that all out and create a lot of consumable waste that doesn't have to be in the ecosystem, right? So I love how you were listening to what today's audience needed, thought about what your superpower was as a business, and then really 2 years in, probably you're still in the learning spirit, but what would be one thing that you would love to have said to yourself at the beginning of the exercise, if you had have known on day one what you know now on day whatever 780,
Yeah.
would love to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we when this idea was like just a nugget, right? And like there were some of us who were like, we need to do something, right? Like we need to create this shopping moment. There's Small Business Saturday, right? Like what if we had something like that for individual sellers and for secondhand? And a lot of it really started with the like, what's the impact we can make? And like, how do we change consumers' perspectives? And why is this important for the planet? And all of those things were really wonderful to message and to help get people on board, to bring in some of our initial partners. But I think that what we've learned like in our second year of this, and I've really embraced, is that if you do a program that really makes sense for your customer, for your business, the business impact will be there as well. And I mentioned before, we've been really pleased with the actual increase in sales and merchandise that, in secondhand merchandise, right? That is being purchased over these holiday weeks. And I I almost wish like we would have started there, right? Like this is something that's great for the business that's going to have all of these like trickle down amazing effects for the environment and for, you know, sustainability, these things that we all really deeply care about. Because at the end of the day, like consumers, if you're in a consumer business, right? It has to be something, it can't just be about the environmental impact, right? Like you also have to deliver like the deals, you also have to deliver like the merchandise that people want. And so I think thinking about things in that business context has really helped us elevate this program in its second year.
It's totally brilliant. And I love that it automatically flows into data, right? Like
Yeah.
it either is or it isn't. And the fact that you're able to show the true secondhand value, the environmental
Yeah.
impact, the economic impact, it's so smart. Um, okay, so Power Chat, final question. None of us has a crystal ball, but if you did have one, what are you thinking about forward looking as the leader of this work for your team? And, if you had to kind of put your chips on a trend or a big idea and social impact, what are you
Yeah.
thinking about right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I come at this question from the communications point of view because I am always trying to think about how can we describe something in a way that people get it really quickly and they get excited about it. it feels accessible. And I think this is one area where, you know, I think I can always do better. I think we can all, do better and really find ways to make things digestible and understandable to a layperson. So, not everyone might understand, numbers that you're equating with carbon emissions, but I think people can understand something like, you know, we've kept 100 million pairs of jeans in circulation and out of landfills, right? Or like that equates to this many pounds of waste that is still in people's closets and being used. So for us, I think when we talk about numbers, when we talk about impact, I want to keep pushing us to think about like how can we make that really understandable by the consumer so that they can feel part of that impact. Because for a business like ours, where we really depend on the people who sell on our platform, who buy on our platform, they're the ones who are driving a lot of this impact. So the more that we can make the language really accessible and understandable, I think the more that we bring them along on the mission.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Let it be so. I think that
Yeah.
that crystal ball premonition, I really hope becomes reality, because really it's by having everybody in this ecosystem from consumer to C-suite be part of the change. So bringing
Yes.
everyone along with you in the storytelling and the comms is critical, and you all do an amazing job. So thank you again for joining us and for what you do every day to make the world a better place.
Thank you, Emily.